This question about social commitment of artists is often asked, not only by the young artists but also by the seniors. Whenever a social issue happens, artists are expected to respond to it. Most of the time, when an atrocity is committed against human beings, weak and powerless human beings, artists are supposed to come up and voice their protest or speak against the authorities and demand justice for the affected people. Even when other social issues, environmental issues, financial issues, war, such kind of things happen, if the society is not going in the right direction, artists are supposed to speak against it, against the authorities, and give a direction. We are agreed to this kind of a factor or this kind of an idea about artists, but there is a divided opinion about social commitment of the artists. Some artists say that they are free human beings, they are free agents of their own lives, and they will do their art, or they do their art not to express the social angst or anything. Maybe they will voice their protest against the authorities, or they will voice their angst for the social happenings or social atrocities, but in their art they remain artists. Their art is not a tool or a weapon to react against the social occurrences. The other opinion is that artists are supposed to depict the social conditions, the environment, the politics of their lifetime. They become, as Percy Shelley, P.B. Shelley said, that the poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Similarly, artists also are expected to be the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Nobody has given them any authority to be so, but they have the right, or they have the moral right, to behave like uh, legislators. They make the rules of culture or rules through culture. They give a certain direction and hope to the people. And so this idea is divided. You can have a social commitment, at the same time you can reject your social commitment part from your art. However, artists have this tendency, or artists have this responsibility to respond to or react to the social happenings, political happenings. Whenever an injustice is committed against the human beings, against the human race, artists are supposed to come up and express their protest through, not only through their art but also through their through their voice, through their writings, or through their speeches. There is it has been a kind of concept or a kind of notion that whenever an art student goes into the academy for the first time to study art, he or she naturally becomes socially committed. Sometimes he or she feels that he is more responsible for the world, responsible for the society, responsible towards the human beings or human society as a whole, or a world as a whole, because it invisibly or unconsciously or subconsciously, being an artist or becoming an artist gives them this feeling that artists have a greater responsibility towards the society, unlike any other office going ordinary citizens. So we have to keep it in mind that artists have some kind of a social responsibility. This is an interesting question. Do artists dress up differently? Artists are often identified as those people who lead a sort of bohemian life. They look disheveled. In those days, like a couple of decades back, whenever an artist comes out of his home or comes out of his studio, people can immediately identify him or her because they present themselves in a different way. So it has been so for a long time, for many decades, because an artist is a person who thinks differently from the normal human beings or ordinary human beings. He behaves differently because he has a different interiority, a different kind of life, and he creates something. He creates some ideas through his paintings or sculpture or whichever medium he chooses to work with. Therefore, he, because he is special to himself, or because he is doing something very special in the world, unlike all the ordinary people or normal human beings, there is some kind of an abnormality, a kind of something above the normal. So they, in their dresses also, in their in their attitude and in their ways of presenting themselves, they choose to look different. Previously, this word bohemian was used to qualify the artists. Today, bohemian looking people are everywhere in the music, in the contemporary music, in the rock music, in the whatever kind of music. You can see people with tattoos, people with long beards, matted hair, loose clothes, and very colorful clothes. Unlike the office going people, they have total different ways of presenting themselves. Artists used to be such people: painters, sculptors, musicians, and people who plays instrumental music, and even scientists and writers. They used to have this special way of presenting themselves as bohemians because they dressed up differently. Why they stood out of the normal course of the society. They didn't consider themselves as people who belong to the normative ways of the society. If you look at the etymological roots of the word, French word Bohemian, which later on adopted into English. Bohemia comes from the Romani gypsies, the Roman gypsies, or the gypsies who actually travel all over the world from the Central Europe or European countries all over the world. So they looked different. Actually, they never settled anywhere. They didn't follow the social rules. They didn't come under the rules and regulations of a particular country. And because they looked different, they behaved different, they ate different, they produced different, their creativity was different altogether. The artist also got enamored by this idea of being different. So that is why artists started behaving or dressing up or presenting themselves differently. Even today, that lineage, that heritage is followed by artists, because the moment they realize that they are different, they can play musical instruments, they can sing well, they can dance well, they can actually rap well, they can paint well, they can create something out of nothing, something out of some materials. But they can install, they can perform, they can act. When they realize these things, they start dressing up differently because they have to mark their presence differently. Artists also keep beard. The main artists keep beard because that shows their experience, their difference from the normal males who actually clean their facial hairs and present make themselves presentable, quote unquote presentable. So these are the things. So there is no insistence that one should be like this, one should be dressing up like a gypsy, but it invariably it happens in the lives of the artist. This was a normal practice during 19th and 20th centuries, but in 21st century, with the globalization and the commodity culture rampant and very much in place in everybody's life, you can see that people have changed their ways of dressing. And even if you are an artist, it is not necessary today that you should look like a bohemian. You can see artists, like high-end artists, like who sell their works for huge prices. They look like very big executives of the corporate houses and so on. So if you are feeling different, you can dress up different. Someone asked me after listening to some of my speeches, why you always qualify some people as normal, ordinary people and some others as artists or artistic? Is there any fundamental difference between a normal human being, an ordinary human being, and an artist? Yes, if I answer this question, I will say that there is a difference between a normal, ordinary human being and an artist. Definitely, an artist is also an ordinary human being, but he is different because he is creative. He has this ability to create something out of the materials that he has around, or even the the non-palpable materials like thoughts. You cannot catch or touch or embrace a thought, but you can think it in your mind. So, out of thinking, he can create artworks or works of art. He can mediate his thinking through materials. That is what makes one creative person different from a normal human being or a normal person. Normal persons or ordinary persons are also creative in their own ways. For example, if somebody is approaching something in a artistic fashion, for example, lifting up of a pen or a pencil from the table, or cutting vegetables, these things could be done artistically. For example, like Osho, you must be remembering this great personality, spiritual personality, radical thinker, or a kind of radical religious personality called Osho. He said anything could be artistic. Anything could, anybody could be an artist, provided he does things in an artistic fashion. He gave the example of brooming the floor. You are brooming the floor or sweeping the floor, and provide, if you are doing it artistically with a rhythm, with a harmony, with full engagement, full application of mind, then it becomes artistic. The German conceptual artist Joseph Beuys, he also almost said the same thing in the same lines, and he performed it also. He said anybody and anything could be artistic, or anybody could be an artist doing things artistically by peeling a potato. He performed it by peeling a potato. He peeled the potato in such a way that the peel never broke. It came in circles, in complicated, intricate circles, and he performed it and he proved it. So, from anything around you, you can engage artistically. That makes you different from a normal human being, an ordinary human being. So then there is a fundamental difference between an ordinary human being and an artist. Is this that difference is this, that an ordinary human being is a person who conforms with the ideas, the normative ideas of the society. The society puts you through a lot of restrictions, lot of rules. As Althusser says, the French philosopher Althusser says that every social institutions are ideological apparatus. They're repressive apparatuses, state apparatus. State uses these apparatuses like a school, jail, hospital, everything to control and regulate and shape up the human beings, the behavioral patterns of the human beings. They are repressive things. They are oppressive things. So to agree with this oppression, by agreeing with this oppression, or by accepting this repressive and oppressive apparatuses, ordinary people tend to behave as normal human beings in the given circumstances. They accept every rules and regulations put by the state, by the government. But artists are such people who don't abide by such kind of strict rules and regulations. They are the people who say that you can live your life even without going to a school. You can do things differently. But that doesn't mean that they actually do criminal things. They do crime. They don't pay taxes. and do atrocious things in the society. Being a non-conformist means you could do things in your own way. You could approach things in your own way, and you could interpret and analyze whatever the government or the state tells you to do. And you can, if you don't agree with that, you can object it. So you are a non-conformist. An ordinary citizen, ordinary human being is a conformist. He agrees with whatever the state says. Artists are basically non-conformists, so they think differently and act differently.